Okay, excuse the GPU noise because it's loud as hell. I have the fans all the way up because it's kind of hot in here. We're gonna go over the 5 worst things about the CSL DD. Here we go. So we'll start off with the boost kit. You all knew I was gonna say that. Enough said. Second problem is one that's easily correctable by Fnatic. They could just start shipping out whatever they send out with this correction. And that's shipping it out with hardware, right? No screws came with it. So if this was my first wheelbase, I wouldn't be able to mount it without going to the hardware store, and that's ridiculous. Like, what if I got a rig that didn't have all those screws provided? I have to go to the hardware store to be able to use it. It shouldn't be like that. Another hardware-related issue is the T-nuts. The T-nuts are not spring-loaded, so they just slide all over the place. If you saw my review, I actually had to use plastic bags, like grocery bags, and stuff it beneath to make them to where they'll stay in place, you know, and you shouldn't have to do that. And this is all they would have to do right here. It's a T-nut with a little spring-loaded ball right there, and this will actually fit in the CSL DD. Like, it works with standard T-nuts. The slots are the same size you'd find in the aluminum profile that this thing's mounted to. Yeah, just a couple more pennies and you could have had a lot more functionality and a lot less frustration. Another one that's kind of odd, it's not really a huge deal, but I noticed that the stem actually flexes a bit more than the podium. It's not something that's noticeable when you're driving, and I actually have the screw inserted as well to make it to where there's no play. When I rest my hands on it, like the weight of my hands, it kind of makes the entire stem droop a little bit. Again, probably not a big deal, but it is something noteworthy, and it's something that I consider a negative quality in this wheelbase. So now we're getting into the big 2. The second biggest issue I see is the fact that this wheelbase is connected through a USB-C cable. It's a very small connection, and it's just not robust enough to be on sim gear, especially like gear that's bouncing around like this is. Like, I'm in a full motion rig, so, you know, when I'm in VR and stuff, I can't tell if cables are coming loose and I'm just bouncing around, you know. That connection just doesn't seem solid, and I really would have liked to see the same connection that was in the Podium DD1 and DD2. Now, the number one biggest issue that I see in this wheelbase, if you're running high torque levels and you get to the end of whatever degrees of rotation you have it set for, it's very hard to tell where that stop is in game. Like right now, like it's pretty light force feedback, so I can tell pretty clearly when that stop is, right there, right there. So I can feel it when the force feedback is light, but like when all the other forces are in play while you're actually in the game, depending on your force feedback levels, you know, if you have a lot of wheel friction and stuff or dampening going on, you can't tell when you get to the end of the rotation. And most of the time this is not a big deal, at least for my style of driving. Like, I do a lot of dirt racing and stuff, and for the most part, you know, you're flinging the car around, but you never really get to that full 900 degrees of rotation for me, unless I've crashed, I'm in the ditch and I'm trying to, you know, back up and then go forward and you know, get out of a tight area. But then it gets kind of confusing. I have to pretty much rely on the character in my headset. Like, I can see my arms, and if they stop moving, I'll know I'm kind of at the end of the rotation. But that's really the only indicator if you run higher force feedback levels. Again, this isn't something that's like game breaking, but it does kind of take you out of the immersion of the game that you're playing. You know, if you can't really quite tell where the hell that stop is. If you're feeling like rushed and you know, you're kind of just flailing all around, you really can't tell. That's, in my opinion, the biggest issue this wheelbase has, and I wish it was 10 Newton meters, so you could have 8 Newton meters and then an extra 2 Newton meters for that extra stop and those extra peak powers. So, who knows, maybe they'll come out with a super booster kit. Anyway, that was my 5 worst things about the CSL DD. Have a good day, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.